Hello, my name is Aaron Murphy, and welcome to the West Shore Archive. Today's guest is AP Math teacher Ann Nery. Ms. Nery was raised in the Philippines, and in her 30-plus years of teaching has taught in the Philippines, Guam, and Florida. She is a nationally recognized AP Calculus teacher and the math department head. Please welcome Ann Nery. So, where were you born, Ms. Nery?
The Philippines.
Philippines. So did you grow up there also?
Mm-hmm. And I lived there till I was finished college, and I was working for 2 years until I was about 22 or 23, and then I got married. Then my husband is from the Philippines originally, but he grew up on Guam. Then he went to school here in Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
So after we got married, we lived in Guam for 7 years, and then 1990 we moved here to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Lived here ever since.
So, you went to high school in the Philippines?
Mm-hmm.
How was high school different back in the Philippines?
Well, I went to a school. It's a special science school, so it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a West Shore.
Mm-hmm.
I have, my math and science classes were pretty like doubled up, like just kind of like AP, but we didn't really have
Mm-hmm.
AP classes. Like I took calculus in senior year.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience from high school, it's pretty much the challenging curriculum is definitely there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was also involved in Glee Club and
Mm-hmm.
newspaper. I was managing editor of the newspaper,
Mm-hmm.
yearbook, all sorts of stuff. So I was very active, but just no sports. I never did
Mm-hmm.
sports.
Right. So, how is, in your perception, being a high school student there different than here?
Well, during our time, not much technology, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to teaching the students now. The curriculum, again, I did take like kind of like college level classes in my senior year of high school. So as
Mm-hmm.
far as the enrichment from what you're getting here at West Shore, it's pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to do a lot of writing. The school community is very much like West Shore. Like we just had our 48th high school reunion this past weekend. I didn't go because I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But there's about 50 of the 100 students in our class that got together, and
Mm-hmm.
we're still in touch with some of our teachers, like they're in their 90s
Wow.
or late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the same thing. Like the way we have our relationship here
Mm-hmm.
is very much similar to the way we had my class had the
Mhm.
relationship with the teachers.
So, in high school, did you know you wanted to be a teacher, or what did you think you were going to do?
I didn't really plan on being a teacher. I majored in statistics, really. I was already attending, it's the University of the Philippines, for majoring in statistics. And then not in a month later, they called me. It's called the National Science Development Board. They had a scholarship mainly geared for math and science teachers.
Mm-hmm.
It was a full ride. Like I had stipend, I had book allowance, everything. I had a monthly stipend. I had everything. It's all full ride. But I had to go to a teaching university, which is the Philippine Normal University. And so then my major is math. They developed the course, so it's really like more math courses than education courses, but we had the education courses so we could teach. So I figured if I got that scholarship, I could help my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So then I took it, so not knowing that I would have loved to teach. But again, through the years, I found that's I have a passion for it, and hopefully I do a good job at doing it too.
Oh, I think you do.
Thanks.
What was your first job out of college?
I taught, but I taught at kind of like an assistant instructor in the university.
Right.
And then I also taught high school classes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I moved to Guam, I taught at a private girls' high school. So I've been teaching almost more than 40 years now, probably. Um, Mostly high school, but there were years when I taught middle school math and science. And I've taught 5th grade science. That was the lowest level I went.
How was the all girls school? How was that experience?
Well, I went to an all-girls school when I was in elementary school too. So in the Philippines, we were used to that. Most of the private schools were like that. It was fine. Just it was run by the nuns.
So, right. Yeah.
So we had rules and stuff, and but I had girls that they applied at Harvard. Cornell, all those big schools, but they were on Guam. I taught at a girls' high school on Guam, and then here I only taught at Satellite for 1 year, and then I went to West Shore. This is my 24th year at West Shore. I taught middle school also in a St. Joseph's Catholic.
Right. So, did you move directly from Guam to here?
To Florida.
And what drew you to this area?
My in-laws moved here from Guam, so when we decided we'll move here, then we lived, they live in Palm Bay, so we bought a house in Palm Bay too.
So, coming to West Shore from Satellite, were you coming, because the principal of Satellite back then was the founder of West Shore, so
yes.
Were you one of the teachers that made that jump?
Well, not right away, because I worked at Satellite. Dr. Galbraith was already here. Like when I moved here, the first class were juniors. So
2 years.
Yeah. So I'm not one of the originals like Mr. Murphy and those guys, but I moved here.
Nicole Santos, please report to the front office. Nicole Santos to the front office, please.
So when I moved, I don't think you remember, Miss Shirley and Miss Van Meter. Miss Van Meter became the principal after Dr. Galbraith. Well, she was the assistant principal at Satellite, and during that time, like public school teachers, your first 3 years you're on annual contract. Now it's every year you're on annual contract, but so then it's like you're not sure of a position until later in the year. So then I just asked Miss Van Meter, because she moved to Santry. She became a principal at Santry. If she, if I could request a recommendation, and then the guidance department chair at that time is a friend of mine from church. So then she told me that they'll have, because they're still just adding grades, so then they would need a math teacher. So then I applied, and then it so happened, and then Miss Shirley, who became our assistant principal, also was a dean at Satellite when I taught there. Now, Miss Shirley and Miss Van Meter are very close friends of Dr. Galbraith, so I guess they gave, a good recommendation for me. So that's why I was hired. So I only taught at Satellite for 1 year, and then I moved here afterwards.
When you got to West Shore, what classes were you teaching?
Algebra 2 honors and Algebra 2 honors and Algebra 2 regular were combined. I had like 3 classes of Algebra 2 honors, and then like maybe 2 to 5 regular students mixed in the honors class. We didn't have a class just for regulars at that time. And then I also taught geometry. And then I've taught pretty much everything.
All the math classes.
Except 7th grade math. I've taught the advanced topics, which is like math for college algebra now. I've taught algebra 1, regular geometry. I've taught geometry until now. Usually I teach geometry. And then calc started 2002, AB. And then BC, I would think 2011 or 2012.
Mm-hmm. So when you first got to West Shore, was it any different than any other of the schools you taught at? What did you think of it?
Well, definitely the standards were much higher here,
Mm-hmm.
and during those times it's much stricter.
Mm-hmm.
We had rules, we follow the rules.
Mm.
That's the way Dr. Galbraith ran the school. And of course, through time, I understand why things are changing now too.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the expectation, and kids were still very highly motivated since then.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't taking like 7 AP classes. Senior project was done the same way, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, it's still pretty much the same.
Daniela Jimenez, please come to the attendance office. Daniela Jimenez, please come to attendance.
Clubs were different because when I first got here, instead of power hour, they had the last period of the day was when we either had club or homeroom.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one difference that I can remember. And then we had 2 clubs that you could choose from, like every other day or something like that.
Mm. So, what was your favorite class to teach, or what is your favorite class to teach?
I would think calc,
Mm-hmm.
because the kids are older.
Mhm.
Then I like the level of to teach it. I did enjoy teaching geometry because it was very more hands-on. The kids can relate to things.
Mm-hmm.
Stats a challenge right now because it's my first year to teach it.
So you've never taught it before?
No, not AP.
Mm.
Yeah. I did teach it like when I was in the Philippines, but that was like, it's not the same way AP is being, even calculus is so different.
Mm.
So that's why I think I'm enjoying teaching calc, because the way I learned it is totally different from the way it's being taught. And I see the relevance of how it's being taught in AP now.
Mm-hmm.
If I had learned it that way, it would have been wonderful.
How was it different? How was the teaching different back then?
Well, because before we pretty much concentrated on just the mechanical stuff, using the formula,
Mm-hmm.
it's like doing the math, but
Mm-hmm.
not much of the application.
Mm.
With the kids that I'm teaching now, they see the relevance because we have a lot of, we deal with a lot of word problems, and then they can see the connections a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, of course, there's all the technology that makes it easier
Right.
to understand it. Used to be, we would just have to imagine everything.
Mm-hmm. What was a challenge you faced when you first started teaching here?
Well, just like any school I go to, you have to, the students, the parents, kind of test the water, see how, and I've had, some parents complain that, their kid did not understand or whatever, but again, because of my AP scores, because of my state assessment scores, they're always really high, then, I don't go through that as much anymore because I've pretty much established myself that they know me already.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel students now are any different than students back when you first started teaching?
Well, I think the technology part of it, you guys are so attached to your technology, and it's wonderful. I think it's good, but again, like in math, I think because you don't write as much in your other classes, then it's a struggle in this class because in stats you have to write. Even in calculus they have to write.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing that kind of slows you down. I like that there's so many other resources now that I could use to help the kids. Your AP classroom, your other videos that kids can, and there's all those resources, but then again, on the other side, there's also AI. You can copy the homework, and it doesn't really help you if all you're doing is copy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as long as the students are using the resources really well, then it should be fine.
Mm-hmm. What was the hardest period of time you've taught? Was there a period of time in your career that was more hard to teach than other periods of time?
Well, it's just when I became department chair in 2006,
Mm-hmm.
and then we used to have, 7 classes, but we had 2 planning periods,
Mm-hmm.
and then they changed it to just 1 planning period. So that took time away, and then I became department chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I love taking care of my department, but there's just so much more I do that I have to do extra
Mm-hmm.
as compared to a regular teacher. And that's why I'm deciding this is my last year as department chair. I'm actually retiring from
Mm-hmm.
being department chair.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still teaching, but not that job anymore.
Mm-hmm. Could you outline some of the responsibilities that department chairs have?
Well, we have extra meetings that we attend to,
Mm-hmm.
And then when we have our department meetings once a month, then we prepare the agenda, all that stuff, and then like awards, we coordinate awards, like the district competition. I take care of it because I'm the chair of the department. Adopting textbooks, purchasing textbooks, inventory at the end of the year, math camp, organizing that and working through the summer because not everybody wants to teach it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and part of it is when we decide who teaches what, then sometimes the numbers are not, we try to do like each teacher teaches 2 or 3 courses.
Mm-hmm.
And if the numbers don't add up, then I volunteer to teach it. That's why I've taught regular algebra 1 and regular geometry.
Right.
Because I would rather teach it than have other people, not have a messed up schedule. Like I'm teaching 3 preps, the 3 classes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of prep. And then, of course, if it's a new first year you teach a class, then that's a lot more. Like now, I'm spending a lot of time preparing for stats than compared to calc, which I've been doing all these years.
Mm-hmm. What was the hardest class you've ever taught?
I would have said BC, but now it's stats because it's my first year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming back slowly.
Who are you? Do you know who the new department head is going to be?
No,
not yet.
We'll find out. Someone's going to be willing, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
But I figured, I've been doing it since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody else's turn.
Right.
I'm getting old. And I'm thinking of retiring in hopefully like at least 3 more years.
3 more years? Have you put in your 5-year thing yet? Or?
Yeah. I signed my papers last month.
Last month. That's nice.
They call it drop. Actually, now they say 8 years, but I don't think I last 8 years.
Mm-hmm. How is teaching AP classes different than regular classes?
The writing and justifying. So that's the depth of the subject matter. It's not just, up to this level, you go deeper and deeper, which is great. I think it's great. Because again, when the kids go to college, they all say it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have a good foundation. It's very time consuming because, grading the papers, the FRQ just kills me. But, and I thought it was hard grading calc, but with the stats it's even worse because now I really have to read a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it is a lot of writing. I didn't expect it, really.
Yeah. But it's good. I think it's very good because then the focus is on the analysis, interpretation instead of just the mechanical stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, how did you get the department head position?
I don't know.
You kind of just.
No, what happened was, well, in 2006, I don't know what happened, but Cocoa High, there was an incident there that Miss Van Meter was moved over there,
Mhm.
and then our math department head was taken there as an assistant principal,
Mhm.
and I may have been the next person in line, as far as seniority, or I don't know what happened, but I was on a cruise. I came back, and then Miss Shirley called me. It's like, so then she asked me if I would be willing, which at that time I was okay with.
Mhm.
So that's how it happened.
Mhm.
I didn't volunteer for it.
So, Fleming and a lot of teachers are leaving this year.
Mhm.
Are you at all worried about a new principal coming in? I know you're on your way to retire, but
I am, but I think if the district is spending a lot of time trying to get, like I think they want a group of students, a group
Mhm.
of parents, talking to teachers, seeing what we really want in a principal, then I think that's a good move.
Mhm.
For the district to be that concerned with, hopefully we'll get somebody that will fit in place and, continue to do well.
Mhm.
I'm sure he will make he or she may make changes as usual. That happens and that's expected. But so far from me being here with Dr. Galbraith, with Ms. Van Meter, and then Mr. Fleming, we've been able to continue that, quest for excellence and
Mhm.
putting the best. So I'm just hoping it will continue. Yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Are you a little bit sad that Mr. Fleming is going to be leaving?
Yeah, because I've been working for him
Yeah.
for a long time, and he's
Mhm.
an awesome administrator.
Mhm.
I mean, I've been very lucky, all three of them, the assistant principals, they've all been great, good support, and that's what, that's why people stay here at West Shore, I think. Because we do get that support, and like with the curriculum especially.
Mhm.
Mr. Fleming would say, I trust your judgment, so do what you need to do because again, I guess because I've established the scores are there and he knows I teach the material well, then he gives me that
Mhm.
confidence to just, teach as you would teach it.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that, definitely.
Yeah. What do you find rewarding about being a teacher?
It's when you guys go to college and then you come back saying, oh, it was easy. Or,
Yeah.
When I see you doing well with your careers, with your jobs, doing well with your lives. And that's the reward of teaching.
Mhm.
As I've said, it doesn't pay much.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's a lot of headaches.
Mhm.
But that's the part that, makes me want to still continue because, it makes me proud when I have students that are doing really, really well.
Mhm.
And then they come back saying they appreciate, learning
Mhm.
at West Shore. So that's definitely good.
Mhm. And I think you go like a little bit on the extra mile. And you like the brownies and stuff when people do well. It's nice. Yeah.
Because I just enjoy doing that. If that would make people motivated, why not?
Mhm.
But that's me. Like I treat you as my own children.
Mhm. So speaking of children, how many children do you have?
I have two daughters.
2 daughters.
They're one's 40 now and one's 33.
Mhm.
The younger one just got married, so they're both married now.
Nice.
And they've, but my younger one went to West Shore. She graduated in 2009.
Mhm.
So she works for Harris now.
Oh, nice.
And my older one went to Satellite and MCC and then Satellite. And then she went to UC. Both girls went to UCF. They have business degrees. And then my older one works for like the stock market portion of TD Bank.
Mhm.
So they're both, doing well.
And you have one granddaughter, right?
Yeah, she's 8.
Mhm.
Trying to get her into the math track.
Yeah.
And I enjoy spending time with her, but yeah, just trying to get her more involved or interested in this. Like she's in her, I guess over at their school, she's in second grade. They have to apply to be in the robotics club or something, and she's in it, so that's good.
Do you think being a mom changed how you taught, or?
I think so, because when my younger one was here, then her friends would hang out here in my room more, and then I got to see the other side of it, which is nice. Then the friends. Then that's the nice thing is, both my girls, I knew who their friends were because they went to my school, so I knew their friends. I knew the parents of their friends. So growing up was not. I mean, being a mom of teenagers was not that difficult because I knew I was involved with their own little group.
So you think being a teacher made it easier for you to be a mother also?
In a way.
Yeah.
But of course my girls know, like they know my passion for teaching, and they know like Leslie used to stay here till 6 o'clock because I was here till 6 o'clock. So they also kind of suffered because of that. But they knew me, that they knew that I work hard, and I think it's like that. They're also workaholics like me. So that's one thing.
I think that's a pretty common trait at West Shore, being a workaholic.
Yeah.
Kind of trains a lot of, I guess even the teachers do that.
But even with that, my daughter, when she went to UCF, my second, the one that went here, she's like, Mom, they're teaching us to do notes, which I learned from Mr. Pastay, history teacher.
Yeah.
When I was in 7th grade. So I said, now you appreciate your West Shore education. So something like that.
How did COVID affect teaching?
Now that was tough because again, we saw it. The kids struggled the following year with their basics and stuff. And then because we went on that block schedule, so we had to finish. Like I finished calculus first semester. I didn't have them second semester, but they took their exam in May. So I did offer like extra assignments on Google Classroom, but they weren't being graded for those anymore. So I'm still happy they still did okay. But then of course that pass rate went down to like lower 80s that year, and then the following year was like 88, 89, and then now it's back up to the 90s. So there's hope that it's getting better again.
Yeah.
But definitely that was a struggle. That was bad. It was a struggle.
Do you think it's changed anything with students or teaching afterwards, even to now?
Well, I think because some of the kids had preferred, like just getting the assignments in Google Classroom. They want to get things done, because that's one of the comments that the kids said when they were e-learners. They got a lot of stuff done, because they didn't have to watch. Let's say if I put a video there, or even if during my time, I required them to have their camera on so I could see them and that kind of stuff. But, you still don't see what they're doing. So that part, I think some of the kids liked it, but, I don't think it was really good because then focusing was not as easy.
So what are your plans for retirement? What are you planning on doing?
Oh. I don't know yet.
You don't know yet?
I want to quilt and sew. I want to have more time to do fun things like that.
Are those some of your hobbies already?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, reading. And so definitely I like doing arts and crafts and then sewing and that. So if I have more time to do that, then that's wonderful. Might continue tutoring just to keep my brain active, too.
Do you ever go visit the Philippines ever? Or?
I do in the summers,
Mhm.
but the last time I went was before COVID. I haven't gone back.
Mhm.
Yeah, usually I go home in the summer,
Mhm.
and I can stay for a month.
So you have like a lot of
I
family
still
there
have a
still.
sister there
Yeah.
with her family, and then
Mhm.
my other sister lives on Guam, so sometimes we decide to meet that way.
Mhm.
But then now my one sister that lives in the Philippines, her daughter lives in Boston now, so she went this way. That's why I didn't have to go back.
Mhm. What's the most, when you came over to America or Guam, because Guam's part of America, what was like the most surprising thing that you thought was interesting?
Uh, Guam and the Philippines, the culture is pretty much the same.
Mhm.
Moving here was probably harder because, again, I used to talk, I don't know if I still have an accent, but my Philippine accent was stronger then. And I had to learn, you know, to speak better so the kids can understand me better.
Mhm.
My husband grew up here, so he's the one that was correcting me every time I would say something different. So I think that was one of those, challenges.
Mhm.
And then having to prove myself that, I am a good teacher, which I think I've done in every school that I've been at.
Yeah.
But definitely you always have to do that. I don't see much of a difference as far as, with our daughters growing up compared to me growing up in the Philippines, then my parents were much stricter.
Mm. It was like growing up, I mean, I think parents back then were just stricter in general,
Mhm.
but I think maybe American parents have always been a little less
Yeah.
strict. I don't know. West Shore has a lot of parents that are really involved in their students' education, more so than like most schools.
Yeah.
So, can that be a challenge, or is it like, it can be good, obviously, but
It is good. I think
Mhm.
it's good because, again, I've
Mhm.
had like your siblings.
Mhm.
I pretty much taught most of you.
Mhm.
So I think that's good because you have that relationship
Mhm.
with not just the students but with the parents.
Mhm.
So I think it's for a good thing, and then that's usually how I ask the kids, like at the start. It's like, okay, what have you heard about me? Because if your siblings got taught by me, then at least you have an idea what to expect in my class.
Mhm.
So in my case, I think it's been good, and I love that parents are willing to help out, chaperone. Like when you used to do competitions out of the, like we would go to Orlando, all that stuff, and I get to know more of the parents because while the kids are taking the math test, then we get to talk.
Mhm.
So I think that's definitely a good thing. And of course, we do have the parents that like to complain too, but that's it's fine.
Mhm.
I think so far our parents are really very supportive. PTA has been great.
Mhm.
They give us, like, if we have to stay for a parent conference night or something, then they provide us with dinner. They support, like, if we needed funds for a classroom thing or a club activity. So I think that's wonderful that they're very, very willing to help.
I forgot to ask this earlier, but was math camp always a thing, or did that kind of start at some point?
Well, I think it started pretty much really early on, because when I got here, it was already a thing.
Mhm. That's interesting.
So that was, I started in 2000. I worked the first summer of 2001.
Mhm. Were you, when you first started, were you one of the math camp teachers already?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I already did. But Mr. Johnson was in charge then.
Mhm.
And then when he became the assistant principal at Coco, then that's when I became in charge.
Mhm.
And it's a lot of, it requires a lot of work to get ready for it.
Mhm.
But, the kids have fun.
Mhm.
And it's a good experience for our SEVIs. So
Mhm.
definitely we want to continue it.
Mhm. What's the hardest part of setting that up?
Organizing everything at the start,
Mhm.
because there were years when we had to go move everything to the auditorium building.
Mm.
So moving all the things that I need, and then so coordinating, but and then reaching out to the parents for volunteers, schedules, and that kind of stuff. The lessons is not bad, but
Mhm.
doing all the other things to get ready, and then make sure that everything's working out smoothly. Then, of course, with the Sevies, dealing with discipline. But it's not too bad,
Yeah.
because if I just have to call their parents, they already know. But that's just part of the job.
Mhm.
So that's why I tell the kids, if I remember you from math camp, that's pretty bad. You're either really good or really bad.
West Shore is unique as in it has homerooms, so you've had probably a
Four
fair.
sets.
You've had 4 sets
This
of
is my
homerooms.
4th group, yep.
Mhm. Is that a very rewarding part?
I think so, yeah.
Mhm.
Though this group, because we lost, because of COVID,
Mhm.
we had those 2 years that was tough because they were home, and
Mhm.
but yeah, I end up becoming really, really close to the kids, and again, I'm friends on Facebook, on Instagram. I see them getting married. I see them becoming doctors or dentists, and
Mhm.
so, and then one group. Which one is that? That's my second group. They just had a reunion, not this summer, but the summer before, I think.
Mhm.
So I came here, and then so it was nice to see them.
Yeah, it's probably interesting seeing
Yeah.
people you taught be in like their 30s now and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And doing well. Most of them are.
Mhm.
So, and that's the thing. Most of our kids, even if they struggled here, they go out in the real world and they're doing well. So I think that's something that is attributed to the school
Mhm.
being the way we are. And then, of course, the support, the closeness, most of them, they tell, they say they're best friends they met at math camp, or they've been best friends for all
Mhm.
these years, and they're still best friends.
Mhm.
Like, I see a wedding, and all the people in the bridal party are mostly West Shore kids.
Mhm.
So I think that's wonderful, that they remained really close even through college and life.
Mhm. Yeah, it's great. Well, thank you, Miss Nery. That was
Oh,
a
you're
great
welcome.
conversation.
Miss Nery plans to continue teaching at West Shore for the immediate future. Her continued leadership and expertise in the math department is invaluable. When she eventually does retire, she plans to spend more time with her family, and especially her granddaughter. Thank you for coming on, Miss Nery.